Welcome back to Tales of the 39, the channel where the guy who didn't have a life and just ran D&D for 39 years tells some wild and woolly stories of what happens when you run the same campaign in continuity for 39 years. So not just a series of one-shots, not different campaigns. The same campaign in continuity has been going on for 39 years and is still going. So towards the end of the video, I'll extend an invitation in case we have openings at the table when you listen to this, or you just want to drop by and hang out and be like an audience member or something. So in today's story, we go back to the 1990s, and there was a gentleman who played Karin the blind elf. And Karin was not always blind. That was not part of his original background character concept or anything like that. Karin started life, fully sighted with functioning eyeballs like most elves have. And in 39 years, there's been some plane travel adventures. Not everything has always taken place on a prime material D&D world. And one day in the 1990s, the party was actually in the divine domain of the Greco-Roman Olympic Pantheon. And there was a slight teleportation accident, and Karin wound up teleporting next to a place where Hera was bathing naked. And, the Greco-Roman gods and goddesses, they all have different personalities, different beliefs, different philosophies, approaches to life. They all represent different things. And in the Greco-Roman pantheon, Aphrodite or Venus, she is kind of, represents eroticism and is kind of like the slutty goddess and stuff. But Hera is the wife of Zeus, and she is the mother or the goddess of matrons and faithful wives and mothers who raise their children and women who are homemakers and unfortunately for Hera, her husband Zeus is just a big time philanderer, horn dog, and we can't even say that Zeus goes after everything with two legs because he doesn't discriminate. There are myths in the Greek and Roman stories where Zeus is like changed into animal form so that he could be, go do bestiality things and stuff. So not everything that Zeus has been with has even had two legs. So Hera just, I guess she puts up with it because her divine thing is that she's the faithful wife and mother and homemaker and stuff. So Hera tends to be kind of bitter, and she tends to be, a little bit spiteful, a little bit vengeful, kind of jealous, as you would. I mean, if that was your lot in the cosmos to basically be Hera, I mean, you'd be a bitter person too. And so Karin the elf, not yet blind, but soon to be, he wound up teleporting next to where she was bathing naked. Now, my first thought as the Dungeon Master to resolve that situation, Dungeon Masterly, was to just have her smite him dead. But I thought that Greco-Roman, like a lot of times the Greek and Roman myths are about teaching lessons. And also vengeance. There's a lot of vengeance there. And death is not always a very satisfying vengeance, because after you kill somebody, they're not really suffering anymore. There's that old saying that, if you kill them, they won't learn nothing. So Hera basically told him that because he had seen the ultimate sight with his eyes, that anything that he would ever see again in his mortal existence would be anticlimactic. That anything that he would ever see with his eyes again would pale in comparison to the glory that he was seeing there, seeing her naked and everything. So she struck him blind because, to save him from that horrible fate of, um, of never being able to see anything as wondrous as the last thing he saw. So that was sort of like her twisted revenge on him. And so Karin, he, some D&D characters have divine patrons. And some D&D characters are not very religious. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, it's your D&D character, how you want to play him. It is a fantasy world that has pagan gods and goddesses and stuff, and powerful spirits and cosmologies and stuff. So Karin actually had a patron, a divine patron. He went to his divine patron and asked for his sight back because the blindness was caused by a goddess, and in the D&D categorization at the time, a greater goddess, because there was greater, intermediate, lesser, demi, and stuff like that. So this was caused by a greater goddess, and so a regular mortal casting Cure Blindness, that ain't going to happen. Or in modern 5e, it would be like Greater Restoration or something like that. So, but a mortal trying to remove it with mortal magic, that wasn't going to happen. So he went to his divine patron, and the divine patron said, well, I could give you your sight back, but I'm not. And here's why. Because he said that immortals and gods and goddesses and, divine beings like that, they try not to piss each other off. They try not to step on each other's toes, and they try not to cause extra drama cosmically. So he said, I'm not going to lift the blindness because that would be, picking a fight with Hera. But here's what I will do for you, since you're like my loyal follower and stuff, and you asked so nicely. So Karin's divine patron took him to a more otaku, Asian-inspired area of a D&D world that on a mountaintop where there were blind warrior monks, and they taught him blind fighting. They basically, or they did with him what happened to Rutger Hauer's character in Vietnam in the movie Blind Fury. They basically, taught him, how to function, kind of like Daredevil from Marvel Universe, how to function without his eyes. So Karin is the blind elf. And when I DM for him, because Karn's pretty high level now, but occasionally the player will play him and stuff, high level adventures, when I DM for him, Karn is a multi-classed elf, like a lot of elves are, and one of his classes is mage, and he has a familiar, and the familiar can talk. And Karn actually has to have his familiar read things to him, because as a blind elf, he can't read. So even though he's like high level and powerful, he's got some drawbacks, being permanently blind and stuff, even though he's got these fantasy blind fighting abilities. So, but that is why Karin, the blind elf, can never be cured of his blindness, because it was inflicted by, god level magic. And so only god level magic could remove it. And he has not found, and isn't really looking anymore for, a god level being that, to remove it. He's just dealing with it, and it makes his character really cool. So down below, I'm going to put some links to the campaign, and you can contact me on social media if you want to check out our campaign sometime, either just to hang out with us, or to actually maybe play if we have opening spots at the time. I also write. Now, I did not write this story. This story evolved naturally through D&D gameplay, but I actually do write stories as an author, and some of the stories I write down are inspired by our D&D gameplay, so I will put those down in the link below as well. So we will see you next time on Tales of the 39.